In what is hopefully a huge blow to the Trump regime's hostile takeover of blue liberal cities, U.S. District Judge Charles Breyer of California ruled this morning that the deployment of the National Guard and Marines to Los Angeles was, in fact, illegal. The judge ruled that the Trump regime violated a 19th century law when he mobilized 4,000 National Guard troops and 700 Marines in June. This law is called the Posse Comitatus Act, and it prohibits the president from using the American military as a domestic police force without approval from Congress. Judge Breyer not only ordered the halting of deploying troops in California, but he wrote in his opinion that Donald's plan to send the National Guard to other cities would be, quote, creating a national police force with the president as its chief, unquote. And the judge concluded that that is indeed illegal. This is, or at least should be, a major setback for Donald's ongoing plan to take over any cities that don't abide by his rules or agree with him or support him. But here's the problem, and this is something we've come up against time and time again. Courts take time to render their judgments. In the meantime, Donald and the Trump regime keep taking more and more liberties with our constitutional rights. By the time the courts ruled, a lot of damage has already been done. Whether or not can be reversed kind of remains to be seen. And here's the other thing. We have ample evidence that Donald and the DOJ is not necessarily going to comply with the judge's orders anyway. So that puts us even further from getting justice, and that gives the Trump regime even more time to cause potentially lasting damage to our civil liberties. In the meantime, things continue apace in Washington, D.C., where National Guardsmen continue to be deployed to do the vital work of picking up trash. So not only is Donald's deployment in D.C. unconstitutional, it's completely useless and very expensive. In fact, DC residents say troops have only been spotted in tourist areas and train stations because it's all about the optics. It is not about protecting the American people or the citizens of Washington, D.C. at all. Service members who did not sign up for this have been reduced to making arrests for petty crimes like smoking pot in the streets and jumping turnstiles. Yeah, the hardened criminals Donald has been going on and on and on about and threatening to remove from our country are a bunch of 16-year-old kids smoking pot or getting out of paying their subway fare. Let's take a look at the scene in DC. It will send chills down your spine. Harrowing. And actually, that should send chills down our spine. Why? Because the men and women who signed up to serve in the National Guard are being insulted, quite frankly. These people wanted to be of service to this country and the people in it. They wanted to be ready to help people in a time of crisis. Instead, they are being used by their own government as props, and it's despicable. Despite what everyone with any common sense can see and admit to, Donald claims, of course, because this is what he does, that the DC takeover has been incredibly successful because he did it. He took to his failing social media platform over the holiday weekend to praise DC Mayor Muriel Bowser on the progress her city has made. He wrote, quote, Her statements and actions were positive instead of others like Pritzker, Westmore, Newscomb, and the 5% approval rated mayor of Chicago, who spend all of their time trying to justify violent crime instead of working with us to completely eliminate it, which we have now done in Washington, D.C., now a crime free zone. Wouldn't it be nice to say that about Chicago, Los Angeles, New York, and even the crime dread city of Baltimore? DC is a giant victory that never has to end, unquote. Shut up. First of all, DC is not a crime free zone. Why? You live there, you criminal. Violent crime will never be completely eliminated from anywhere. But the idea that Donald's stunt of installing National Guard troops in an American city had any impact on crime at all is absurd. Here's the other thing, though, too. Washington, D.C. is a city that does not have the same rights of other cities that exist within states. So it was much easier for him to make the unconstitutional decision to deploy active duty troops there. This cannot happen, certainly should not happen in cities like Chicago, New York, Los Angeles, San Francisco, or Baltimore. And that's one of the reasons Donald is so mad. He does not have power in cities like New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, or Baltimore. Whereas, because Washington, D.C. has not yet been made a state for reasons I don't begin to understand, that city is entirely vulnerable to federal incursions, no matter how unconstitutional and illegal they might be. So clearly, this hostile takeover of D.C. has been a complete and utter failure, as everything is that Donald has his hand in. So why are there troops still actively patrolling there? If on the one hand, according to reality, it's been a failure, or on the other hand, according to his delusions, he's solved crime. There's no crime in DC anymore. Well, as always, it has to do with trying to distract us from the Epstein scandal, his failing health, the economy he single-handedly is tanking, and all of his other failures, which are so numerous, I don't have time to mention all of them. We cannot afford to keep having taxpayer money wasted in this way. I did a video earlier in this week which showed you data that makes it clear the problem of homelessness could have been solved for 25% of what is being spent on this farce in DC. It's not working as a way to help the American people, and it is not working as a way to distract us from all of the failures and horrors being enacted by the Trump regime. Just to make sure that we're on the same page here, Donald's name shows up many, many times in the Jeffrey Epstein files, and that is according to his own DOJ. As the District of Columbia continues to deal with the presence of armed National Guardsmen, Chicago is getting ready to be next. While Donald's illegal deployment of active duty troops in Los Angeles were being adjudicated by Judge Breyer, Donald's threat to take over Chicago is still in the background. Chicago and its residents are bracing for the order to come down from the executive branch for troops to enter their city, possibly as early as today. Donald took once again to his failing social media app to give a cryptic warning. It read, quote, "I will solve the crime problem fast, just like I did in DC. Chicago will be safe again, and soon. Make America great again. Chicago is the murder capital of the world." Unquote. No, actually, it isn't. It's not even the murder capital of the United States of America. But knowing that would require knowing anything. Chicago residents are already bracing for the impact, as I said, but they are making it quite clear that they are not going to take this sitting down. Thousands of Chicagoans took to the streets on Monday in what was originally planned to be a Labor Day protest, but quickly shifted into an anti-occupation demonstration. Take a look at this show of dissent.
This year, Labor Day for these workers means standing in solidarity against what they say is a billionaire takeover of the government and threats to send troops to Chicago. Monday in Chicago's West Loop, hundreds of people from dozens of unions came together, from the Chicago Teachers Union to hospitality workers, Teamsters, healthcare employees, and their allies, to rally against the Trump administration's federal cuts.
I think solidarity among workers is probably the most important thing we can do right now. We're looking at our country getting disassembled from the top down, and the best thing we can do is unite from the bottom up.
The rally, called Workers Over Billionaires, aimed at showing the power of the working class during a time when billionaires play a role in politics. But the rally had another cause it shifted focus to.
No troops in Chicago!
Mayor Brandon Johnson leading a chant against the potential for National Guard troops to come to the city along with ICE agents, something President Trump said he intends to do if crime is not straightened out soon.
Intimidation. He's not going to intimidate the cities. We have to hold strong.
It is not just the people of Chicago and Illinois who are standing strong. Governor J.B. Pritzker and Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson have warned Donald that he will face major organized resistance if he dares sends troops to Illinois. Mayor Johnson said at Monday's protest, quote, "No federal troops in the city of Chicago, no militarized force in the city of Chicago," unquote. And that should apply to every single city in this country. The federal government deploys troops into our independent cities at its peril. Please take a second and like and share this video. Be awesome if you could subscribe to the channel. If you're listening to us in podcast form, please follow us and give the show a 5-star rating because it really does help other people find our content. Thanks.